Assalamualaikum. My name is Syahiirah. In this new series of Food and Faith, Muslim SG together with the Asatizah Youth Network and their invited guests will discuss the relation between food, faith and culture. We will bring you friends from other faiths to discuss respective religious festivals and observation, and us sharing about ours too, together with me spicing the beauty of different faiths. This is my favourite kuih, vade. Cannot see because it's always with green chili. So I love spicy. So when I eat the vade and it's crunchy and then you have that chili padi to eat with. Yeah. So do you guys have experience with vade?
with vade, something similar. I think my grandmother had taught me how to eat vade,
Okay.
right? And then she had the green chili and she said you have to bite into the green chili first and then you bite into the vade flour. And
this one
as
it
a
has
child, I thought it was crazy. I thought it was madness. Who would bite into chili?
Yeah.
It was my
I personally
experience.
don't understand people who do not enjoy vade with the
Green chili.
I think it's an integral part of the vade.
Yeah.
I've grown to appreciate it. I've grown to
Yeah.
appreciate it.
So Sixtus, what's your favourite kuih?
My favorite would be wajid, the purplish kueh over there. And my earliest memory of wajid was when I think I was 6 years old. My neighbor who were Muslim, they gave me particularly the wajid. So that's the earliest memory I had about wajid, and I like it till this day. It's my favorite, one of my favorite kueh.
Food represents Singaporeans. You see, Singaporeans always, like Ustaz mentioned.
Oh yeah, we love food, we fight over food. We love over food, we talk over food. Yeah, basically
Yeah.
our life is food.
So it's the variety of food and also the snacks that we have in Singapore connects us together as Singaporeans. Speaking about food, also it is also part of our basic practice for Muslim to actually say Bismillah before we start eating also. So maybe Ustaz can explain also what's the significance when we say Bismillah.
Yeah,
before
it's
eating.
very much encouraged as a Muslim before you eat to say the name of Allah, Bismillah, in the name of Allah. Basically to remind you that the rizki that you have is provided by God, right? And that this is not ultimately, it's not yours alone. You know, when you have it, it's a blessing from God, and you have to always to remember that this blessing also need to be shared when you have more of it or when you have people around you. Right? Giving food to others, right, in Islam is something which is very important. Our Prophet said, "At'imul ja'i," feed the hungry, right? And this has been a very important part of our belief.
We share the same sentiments as Christians. Before every meal, we have this grace before meal, where we thank God for giving us these gifts from His goodness. So before we eat, we thank God for these gifts and that we may be able to share it with other people as well.
It's this mindset of or even a posture of gratitude, of thanksgiving, right? That we have received this food from God. I can never skip praying my prayer before meals. Like it's been so part of my upbringing that even though I don't want to pray anymore, right? And then, at nighttime, maybe I don't want to pray before I go to sleep or when I start my day. But suddenly when lunch is there or dinner is there, it's like automatic in me. I start doing the sign of the cross and thanking God for the food in there. So it helps me stay Christian. For some reason, the Christian version of Bismillah helps me stay Christian, that just having food in front of me.
Yeah, I also remember that Good Friday and also Easter Day, the Christian experience during the pandemic circuit breaker period.
So I guess this pandemic really brought us to be more creative in our celebration of faith. And for us during Good Friday and also Easter Sunday, we had the service posted online. We aired it online, and because we are not able to gather in a place, and we had live masses, live services, which we aired on YouTube.
What are the one important message that you will be sharing, or you will be keep reminding those who actually watch or join the mass prayer online?
I believe the whole world is experiencing hardship in this pandemic. And I think if I can convey a message to my fellow Christians, is that to look at this situation, this hardship, in a broader sense, because God is beyond all these hardships, and try to look for the silver lining in this situation. Of course, this pandemic has not allowed us to gather together like normal, like the usual one, where thousands of people can gather together and praise God together.
Yep.
But I think it also invites us to spend more time with family, to pray to God together, and also to have that intimate relationship with our own family.
Yeah.
And also to be creative in our celebration of God. Like, for example, now we have turned more to online platforms.
As you also mentioned that you are one of the deaf interpreter. Yeah, maybe you can share also with us, how do you actually start your congregations, or maybe share with us like one of the things that you usually do with the deaf community as a start of the mass prayer?
Yes, and I would like to sign a message where the priest begins the mass by saying this sign, and I would like to sign it to all the viewers out there.
Okay. Maybe you can share with us also?
Yes. Yeah. It's peace be with you. Okay. Peace be with you.
As yourself, Basil, as a Christian, that of course that you will observe the mass prayer through online. So how's your experience on commemorating the Good Friday and also Easter Day? Yeah.
I felt like now, because of COVID-19, and we were in the midst of the circuit breaker here in Singapore, right? So there was the whole self-isolation at home, social distancing. And it felt really, really special for me, because I realized that's what the early followers of Jesus were also going through. At that time, I mean, Jesus had died because he was arrested, right? He was seen as a criminal, as an outlaw, which is why they captured him, they hung him on the cross. And so his followers had to scatter, they had to run, they had to hide at home, right? And because they were all hiding, they were self-isolating. They were socially distant from their community, from their leader, from their God, right? So for me, it was like a very special occasion for me to experience what those first Christians were experiencing 2,000 years ago. It was a very special spiritual encounter for me. Like, this was what it must have been like for those people to go through that experience on Good Friday and waiting until Easter. And even on Easter, right, they were also secluded from their communities around them, from others, right? They had a small community, but that was also socially isolated. So for me, the circuit breaker was a special experience of going deeper within my faith, of the actual experiences of the people earlier than me.
In our tradition, Islamic tradition, actually, our Prophet ﷺ mentioned about what should a Muslim do when a pandemic happened, and the Prophet ﷺ actually said to stay at home, to avoid the places where this pandemic is happening. The Prophet ﷺ said, if you are in that place, do not go out, and if you are not there, do not go to that place. Right? And that is part of our tradition. It's very much part of the social responsibility. When you are living in this kind of situation, you cannot be the reason to affect others, right? Because the danger of the virus, like you are seeing right now, where people are when someone who is healthy, maybe you are asymptomatic, and you will bring it out, and it will affect the elderly, and the elderly are the one who is suffering heavily or severely from this disease, right? Also, very interestingly, in the Quran, if you remember about the story of Sulaiman, Prophet Sulaiman or Solomon, right? When Prophet Sulaiman alayhi salam and his cavalry and his soldiers, they were walking, and then, or rather marching, and there's a group of ants, right? What did the ants say when the people of Sulaiman were marching? He said, go into your houses, go into your places, right? Why? Because to avoid the danger of being stabbed by the soldiers of Sulaiman, right? That is an indication in our tradition that no matter how strong your faith is, right, you have to take care of your safety and the safety of people around you. The strength of your faith is not measured by how gung-ho you are, right? Yeah. But it's measured by your sensibility and your responsibility, to keep yourself or to hinder away from danger and harm's way. Yeah.
Okay, as Muslim community also we celebrate and observe Hari Raya and also Ramadan. So Ustaz Khairul, what is your experience being an imam serving the Muslim community for Ramadan and Hari Raya during the pandemic period, and your experience previously before this pandemic happened?
Ramadan is the busiest time of the year for us at the masjid.
How long do you actually prepare for welcoming the month of Ramadan?
I think the preparation, can be as early as 3 months before Ramadan.
Oh, okay.
So we start surveying, we start calling for quotations and all that. Maybe 3 months or 4 months prior Ramadan. Yeah, but Ramadan itself is a super busy month. I personally, in the past, I would leave home at about 10 a.m. and then I will only come back after 11.
After 11?
After 11. Okay. Yeah, so you probably work more than 12 hours a day in Ramadan. But this year is totally different, right? This year we prepared, but our preparation was mostly for the online content that we want to provide for the community.
During Ramadan period?
During Ramadan period this year. So, of course, this year people anticipated a lot whether we can come back to the mosque for Tarawih, but then when the circuit breaker was announced, I think automatically we understood that that's not going to happen. Yeah. So, we actually observe Ramadan at home, and that's where my colleagues, my friends from the mosque, we work to move our Ramadan activities, quote unquote, or inverted commas, onto our online platforms. Yeah, so basically we had our tadarus online, our tazkirah online. Okay. Yeah. So that is the difference.
How about your preparation as an imam, especially during the Ramadan period?
I think my concern at that point of time basically was how can I still provide for the spiritual needs of the Jama'ah.
Okay.
Right? Because I think at the end of the day, Muslims, we all long for our spiritual nourishment. Right? And not being able to attend the mosque, not being able to be physically in the place of worship, to be with our imam, to be with our Jama'ah. I think everyone will feel a sense of loss, right? And so as an imam, I thought what more can we do to provide, for the needs of our Jama'ah? We put out a lot of content, online content. At the same time, I think that personal touch where you actually call, families of the mosque, call your colleagues, call your Jama'ah, call the students, connect with them in the WhatsApp group. I think all those, are also very important. I think it also somehow remind us of the meaning of Eid without all the festivities. Without all the celebration. It's time for us to actually sit back and reflect on what it really means. I think that is one of the hidden hikmah of the current situation we are in. And in our belief, sabr, Allah SWT reward those who have patience with a limitless reward. إِنَّمَا يُوَفَّى الصَّابِرُونَ أَجْرَهُمْ بِغَيْرِ حِسَابٍ. Why is that so? Because you see, having patience, right? It's everybody have their own threshold. Right? Everybody have their own pain points. Right? For some people, it's tougher than the other. That's right. But one thing that we believe is that Allah SWT will not test us with something which we cannot bear. So be patient, have sabr, and inshallah we will get through this together.
Before that, also actually, I find some similarities and also differences when I visit the chapel with Friar Sixtus. I think the similarities that we have is both of us, both of the faith, trying to adapt and also trying to accommodate to the different communities, which is the Christian communities and also the Muslim communities. But what do you think? I just want you guys also to share with me. What do you think living in Singapore is such a blessing as a faith group?
I'd say especially for myself, doing a lot of work in interfaith dialogue, to have grown up in a space whereby we've had so many religions, interacting with each other, right? Whether it's in your living spaces, right, along your HDB corridor, or in your schools, your classmates, or in the office spaces as well. It was nice because you have to interact with people of other races and other religions, especially. And I'm not sure if people are aware of the Pew Forum in the US has listed Singapore as the most religiously diverse country in the world, right? So that's quite amazing in itself. And the fact that we're all living here as one with, there will be differences, there will be certain conflicts and stuff, but in general, peace with each other, I think that's quite impressive.
So I believe also that you guys, that all of you also think that it's very important to have interfaith initiatives, right? How about that? Why do you think it's also important for the Muslim community to actually be involved in an interfaith initiatives and dialogues?
My own motivation would be my own understanding of Islam, right? The faith itself, because I believe Islam as rahmatan lil alamin, it's a blessing, it's mercy to all of mankind. Right, and there's so much. If you were to look into the Quran, Al-Quran mentioned about knowing one another. Kan inna ja'alnakum shu'uban wa qaba'ila lita'arafu. Right, we have created you into groups, tribes, so that you get to know one another. So lita'arafu, ta'aruf, like getting to know one another, is pretty much one of the fundamentals of our belief. It's the essence of Islam, right? And there's so much benefits if you're talking about getting to know someone. If you know someone, you can actually, I always tell this to the youth that I'm working with, right? Why is it we so forgiving of our best friends and our family members, right? It's because we know them really well, right? Every time they do something wrong, we just say, he's like that, he's just like that, right? Maybe you make an appointment to meet somewhere and the person didn't turn up. You say, he's like that, you know. But it's when it is someone who you don't know, a stranger, right? You will take the effect will be very adverse. You'll be very angry about it. Why? Because you don't know that person. You do not value that person, right?
And it takes a process and it takes time.
So that is why it's so important for us to actually understand and get to know our friends from different faiths. Right, and I believe that Islam, again, rahmatan lil alamin. Our purpose here is to do so much good, to do a lot more good to our community, to the world, right? And that can only happen if we work together.
What do you think might be the pragmatic steps for us to contribute together as a community in understanding each other better as a community as well?
This is really interesting, right? Because I think maybe in the last 20 or 30 years, we have been doing quite a bit of the simple, basic, pragmatic steps, right? But I think many of us are afraid of just going a little bit deeper to really asking people more about their faith or being willing to share about their faith, whether it's like the spiritual aspects of Islam, and a Christian person, like speaking with the Muslim person about, what's my spirituality like? How do I pray? How do I talk to my God, right? That kind of thing. Many religions, right? Hinduism, Taoism, Christianity, they can share about gratitude. They can share about hope. So maybe it's about us Singaporeans daring to go into these issues, just slightly below the surface. You don't have to go very, very deep, right? But don't just stay on top, like Selamat Hari Raya, and then that's it, that's all you do. But, what do you guys think about compassion? What do you guys think about hope? What are the scriptures that you have that inspire hope in your life? I think that will be really pragmatic, but just one level up from what we've been doing in the last 20 or 30 years. Yeah, I would suggest that actually.
For me, I think we need to bring this discussion or this conversation down to our youth, right? I think we need to get them involved. I think I totally agree with what Basil said. I think this conversation need to spill over to the community. We need to get more people involved, right? And I think this is something that maybe moving forward, the Muslim youth can be more involved in this. Yeah.
Okay, this is nice sharing also, and some priorities that others also can also take note of. Aside from the religious identity and also the race identity, we hold another identity, which is a Singaporean. So what does it mean to be a Singaporean?
As a Muslim, I've never felt that being a Muslim and being a Singaporean, that these two identity, however, conflict with each other, right? I think me being a Muslim, it actually complements me as a Singaporean, because the values that I have in my belief, in my faith, actually encourages me to be a better person. And I think that is what I ask Muslims, I'm talking to my Muslim brothers and sisters, that this should be amplified through our actions. You know, there's this concept or this term in Islam called itqan. Itqan means trying to be perfect, right? Trying to be perfect. We are not perfect, but we are trying to be. I think that is something that we have to really, live up to, right?
I have to say, this is a really very interesting question for me, because I've never thought of it before. But listening to your answer as well, Ustaz, as a Singaporean Catholic, it allows me the ability to look at Christianity in both ways, both a very Western mindset of Christianity and a very Eastern mindset of Christianity. How would I apply my faith in a very Chinese or Indian context or Singaporean context? How would I apply my faith? I'm Christian, I grew up Christian, but in a place that is not where all my neighbors are Christian, where all the schools and government associations around me are have some sort of Christian heritage, right? So basically, this is basically how do I survive as a Christian or live and thrive as a Christian in a space that respects an environment which is not necessarily Christian, right? It can be a secular environment. It's an environment where other religions are around me. But how does Christianity play well with other religions as neighbors, as friends, as colleagues around us? So thank you for the question.
One thing that I can learn from the church here in Singapore is that as church leaders, they go out, or we go out from the church compound to celebrate this diversity. So the church leaders, as I can speak of the friars in Saint Mary of the Angels. So they went out of the church compound to celebrate Hari Raya together with our Muslim brothers and sisters as a neighborhood. And it was not in the church compound. So I think what I can learn from this is it is time for church leaders to go out from their safe environment, safe compound, and to go and meet our brothers and sisters from the other faith. And I think that really helped to promote unitedness, unity, and peace.
Yeah, so it's about the value of peace and also harmony, especially living in Singapore. Yeah, so I think that is the common things that we see within the faith. Also, it's about promoting the value of peace and harmony as also as part of the religious values, and putting it as a Singaporean values as well.